We have Sister Robin with us today. Thank you for coming.
Thank you. Glad to be here.
And I just have, I'm very eager to know your story, so please share with us your story from the beginning.
Okay, well, I ended up marrying two different Muslim men, not just one. The first time, my husband, after our marriage, he came into the kitchen and he said, "Here, fill out these papers." And I said, "What's this?" "It's immigration papers." And I said, "Well, why are we filling out immigration papers? You're working. That's how I met you. What happened?" And he just said, "I was illegal. I overstayed my visa." And I was like, wow, that was a shock. And I thought, okay, well, how's the rest of the marriage going to go if this is the first lie and it's only been a week? And I thought, oh, wow.
So you didn't know your husband for a long time, or like, how did it happen first? Like, how did you meet him, if you can share that? Where is he from? All this background just before you went to marriage.
I met him through a friend of ours, introduced me to him. It kind of set up a blind date. They knew that I was been married to an American. That didn't go well. And so I was like, okay, well, you know, a foreigner, you know, I'm willing to go on a date and see what happens. And it's funny, the date started out very casual. And then, you know, a few days, he started calling me every day. And then next thing you know, we were seeing each other every day. It just moved very, very quickly. And then one thing led to another. And before I knew it, he asked me to marry him. And I wanted to, but I talked with my parents. And my parents, specifically my father, said, if you marry him, we won't speak to you. And I was like, oh, come on, Dad, you know, don't do that. But he was serious. He was dead serious. And so I married him anyhow, which that was a mistake. But the point is, you know, you fall in love. You think, oh, this is the right man for me. And
he was from where?
From Morocco, sorry.
From Morocco.
Yes.
Well, and he was a Muslim.
Yes, he was a Muslim.
And what time frame all this happened? Like a month, two, a year?
I would say from the time we started dating until the time we were married, probably 2 months, 3 months at the tops.
Wow. And you didn't feel it's a little bit rushing, like it's a rush, it's in a hurry?
I did, but yet at the same time, there was just something about him that was very calming. It just filled whatever gap I had inside me that I needed. So
you were not like a little bit having some questions about his faith, being a Muslim? You are American, he's Moroccan, different cultures, different religions. You didn't take that into consideration?
I didn't know really anything about Islam. I didn't know anything about the Muslim culture. All I knew was I assumed he was Americanized because he had lived here for some time, celebrated Christmas, you know, things like that. We talked about God. We both believe in God. He said he believes in one God. And to be honest with you, I just thought, well, you know, we've got the basics foundation here, Abraham, you know, the Old Testament. The only point was with Jesus, which he believed he was a good man, and we both disagreed on that point.
But it was not a big deal.
Well, it should have been a big deal, but unfortunately, when you're blinded with love, you just seem to kind of justify whatever you want.
So here you go, you got married and everything. Did you do it in a church or just how did the marriage go?
We got married in my home.
Okay.
We had a notary come and marry us.
Okay. And then you were surprised that you had to sign immigration papers.
Yes.
That started anything like in your mind, questions, raised any red flags, something like that?
Oh, definitely. If there had been a way to annul the marriage, I probably would have done it. But, you know, according to my understanding of how you can get an annulment, you know, we had already consummated the marriage, so I couldn't. That's what I thought.
So how did it go after that?
It went pretty well. I mean, he wasn't a practicing Muslim, and I think that's the one thing that helped me quite a bit. Very easygoing.
Did you sign the immigration paper?
Yes, I did.
And he had his paper after that through the marriage?
Yes. He got his permanent residency, and then he went on to get his citizenship. And it was shortly after he got his citizenship that things kind of started to fall apart.
Okay, what happened?
He used to tell me, you know, go to church all the time or don't go at all. And so I went to church regularly, and I had 2 children. I took them with me. And one day I came home, and he said, what was the church sermon about? And I thought, well, is he asking me because he really wants to know, or is he just making sure I went to church? And so I told him it was about sharing the gospel. You don't need a degree in divinity. All you needed was to know that the Lord loves you, and you can accept him as your Savior, and it's not based on works, which I found out later the Islamic religion, in my opinion, was based on works. Right. And so he ended up saying the sinner's prayer because I felt like the Lord asked me to ask him, and I did. I said, you know, do you want to be a Christian? And he said, yes. And I said, well, say this prayer with me. And when he said the prayer, and his face went from a gray tone to it to bright after the sinner's prayer. And I was like, wow, that really surprised me. I had never seen such a difference. But it didn't, you know, I felt like that was the real heart conversion, and I thought things would change. But it didn't end up going that way. So he was a Christian for a short time before he went back to Morocco. And that's when things fell apart even more. I believe he had an arranged marriage because he came back with all this fancy clothing. And I'm like, something's not right here.
How much he spent in Morocco? How much time?
A month.
A month.
Yes, every time he went, he spent a month.
And you think that a marriage happened during that?
Yes.
After getting his citizenship?
Yes.
Okay. So you stayed married for how long?
I think it was 6 or 7 years.
Wow, that long.
Mm-hmm.
And so after 6 years, he went and he had another wife in Morocco.
Yes.
Do you think it was like a setup, like he just, sorry to say this, used you to get his paper? Like it's
Yes. I do. You know, at first I didn't think so. But later, when you remove yourself from the situation and you see some of the different things that had happened and you kind of reevaluate your life, you're like, maybe that was his agenda from the very beginning.
And so how did it end? How things went from a marriage, a stable marriage, and to like getting divorced or like separated? Right. Or
he told me one day that the Lord told him to leave. And I'm like, what? What do you mean the Lord told you to leave? He said, the Lord's telling me I need to leave. So, you know, we went back and forth over this issue, and I said, why? I don't get it. What have I done? Nothing. He just felt like the Lord told him to leave. And so that's what he did. But the whole time he had um, already had a prearranged marriage, and the prayer of faith turned into saying the Shahada again when he was in Morocco because he had an arranged marriage waiting for him.
So you think he went back to Islam?
Yes. Mm-hmm.
So do you think he was just like pretending that he's the a good husband and everything until he got his citizenship, then things went another direction or something like that?
You know, I don't know if he was just pretending. I think it was real because even afterwards, he would still send me flowers on my birthday and cards at Christmas. And you know why? For he's the one who broke up the marriage. Why is he still trying to pursue a relationship? So I don't know. I mean, that's a real good question that only he can answer.
Tell me about the second experience that happened. What happened after that? Did you like? You said enough, like another culture, another religion. Like I should not. I shouldn't get into this
Right.
from the beginning. Something like.
Well, a number of years passed in between the two because I needed time, and I was very lonely at the time, and a girlfriend of mine was dating a Moroccan man, and he had brought his brother over. And we all, hung out together and did things. And then next thing I know, we were in the movie theater one day, and he said, I really want to be serious with you. And so we started talking. We started talking more and more, and we decided to get married. And I was thinking, wow, how am I going to explain this to my parents again, the second go around? But I think they understood. Obviously, I had some issues because that's what I was attracted to. And, we ended up getting married, but this is really quite a twist. We were married by a Jewish rabbi.
How is that?
Yeah, I know. This Jewish rabbi that we found, talked to us, spoke to us a little bit about why we wanted to get married and so on. And his wife was born in a Muslim country, but she wasn't a Muslim. And he agreed to marry us, and I don't know if he was just doing it to...
And your husband accepted?
Yes. As a matter of fact, he told me, he says, we have a lot of Moroccan Jews in our country.
So he didn't mind?
No, not at all. He didn't even flinch. So
he didn't insist, for example, that you should go to a mosque and do the...
No, not at all.
Okay, and what happened after that? Was he from Morocco too?
Yes, he was from Morocco. And after that, we, started doing what married couples do, going places, doing things together. I really enjoyed his company quite a bit. I mean, we seemed to be very well suited for each other. The only thing that started happening, as we got more and more into the marriage, he started doing his prayers more.
He was a practical Muslim?
Yeah, he practiced quite a bit. And I didn't see all those things in the beginning because, we were separate. We were both, in different houses. But he said all the prayers, he did Ramadan, things like that. But that's when I noticed more that I was learning more about Islam from him. And the more I saw, the more I was like, wow, I'm not sure that this is going to work long term. Because to give you an example, I'm getting ready for work in the bedroom, and I come out, he's in the living room saying his prayers, and because I passed by him, he had to start his prayers all over again. Like they were invalidated because I walked by. And I thought, wow, that's crazy. And during Ramadan, we would be sleeping together, and then at a certain hour in the morning, he would just throw me on the other side of the bed and like, oh, you can't touch me now. And I'm like, well, why? You know, it's like, because this is when Ramadan starts. And I said, well, wait a minute. You mean all throughout the year, you can drink, smoke, do whatever, and it's okay.
He does that?
Well, he did at one point, and then he, you know, didn't do that anymore. But the point is, you know, that was his life. You can drink and smoke and carouse, and then all of a sudden, during Ramadan time, you're holy. How is that? You know, I told him, I said, either live holy all year or don't do it.
Right.
You know, or just quit fasting. I mean, what's the point if just for 30 days? And I talked to him about, I would see him prepare for prayer, washing his hands, his feet, his leg, every, you know, part of his body in preparation for saying his prayers. And I said, you know, I think that's really admirable. However, have you prepared your heart? And he said, no, we don't. It's you prepare the outer body. And I said, but it's the inner body you need to prepare, because you're worshiping. And he just didn't seem to grasp, you know, that it's the heart. It's not just the outward acts.
And so you started noticing that he's a practical Muslim, and the way he lives, it's like making some problems. Did it go to your marriage, like influence it the whole relationship, something like that?
Yeah, a lot of little things popped up, like the cable guy came to hook up the cable, and he asked me, well, why'd you let him in? And I said, well, you made the appointment. I let him in. It's like, well, you shouldn't have a man in your home with me not being there, or at least have another woman or another man there. And I said, well, you know, what am I supposed to do? You made the appointment. You know your work schedule. Why is it my problem? So just little things like that kept coming up. And I just thought, you know, the more I saw of Islam, the more I thought, that is definitely not for me. And I'm very happy that I never converted.
Did he ask you at any time to be a Muslim?
Yes, many times. And he would talk to me about, you know, the world's going to end soon, and I don't want to see you go to hell. And I said, well, you know something? I said, I know, I appreciate your concern for me as your wife. However, I don't believe I'm going to go to hell. I said, but I have a question to ask you. Do you believe God is holy? Yes, he said. I said, do you believe heaven is a place where there's no sin? He said, yes. And I said, then how can you believe that in paradise, which is their word for heaven, that you can have multiple virgins and this is going to be your life, having sex over and over, when heaven's supposed to be a holy place where God lives with his people? How is that? And he said, that's our prize. And I thought, wow, well, I don't want that prize.
So you had conversations about doctrinal issues.
Yes.
Did it upset him at any time, or like did you, both of you had like conflicts based on these discussions?
We did have a few. As a matter of fact, one point where I left him some literature in Arabic for him to read, in the middle of the night while I was sleeping, he burnt the book. Which was, you know, I couldn't understand why the fire alarm went off, but because they hid it, you know, he didn't want me to know that he burnt the book. And then the next day, you know, I see that even the faucet handle looked like it was charred, and I thought, wow, you know, to me that was a little extreme, that he's going to burn a book that I give to him. You know, it's not going to change.
Did you ask him?
Yes, and he just said, I don't want to talk about it. You know, I'm not going to read something that's contrary to what I believe. And I knew then things were getting even rockier.
So did he stop you at any time from going to church, or were you at least going at that time to church or doing your Christian prayers or like reading your
Yes.
Bible?
He did not stop me from going to church, which I'm very grateful. But you know, I had to do some soul searching myself, and really, at that time, I realized, you know, I'm just a pew sitter taking up space. You know, where's this relationship that I need to have? So,
Did he get his paper through marriage as well?
yes, he did.
So you had to sign immigration paper for him as well?
Yes, and it was very sobering when in the immigration interview, the lady asked me, "Do you understand that you're saying that you will support him financially for 10 years?" And I went, wow, well, it's kind of late to have this talk on the flip side. I mean, you should have that talk on the other side.
Right.
I had no idea.
What, I mean, from the first experience, didn't you have a fear that probably the same thing going to happen? These Moroccans, they just like use American women to get their paper for any reason, and then later on they will go for their life and they will leave her. Didn't you feel probably the same experience going to repeat itself?
You know, it did cross my mind. However, I just thought, oh no, this is different. This is different. Again, it's just justifying what you want when in truth, yes, I should have known. I mean,
Now, so how long it lasted?
I think it was 4 or 5 years.
So he got his citizenship.
He got it later,
Okay.
after
But
we
almost.
separated, yes.
And then, what was the point where like you broke up, like both of you?
Actually, we were in Spain on a vacation visiting his sisters, which that's when he said that he never wanted to marry me. Yeah, I was shocked. Never wanted to marry me. He wanted children. He knew I couldn't have children. And I said, nobody put a gun to your head. Why? Why did you marry me then? I didn't force you to. And I think it was his brother. Because all I can think of was an incident that happened during our marriage. His brother told me that he was helping other Muslim men find American women for wives, taking them to local nightclubs and like saying, oh, look at that girl over there. She's not really dancing, or she's maybe not as pretty, a little overweight. That's who you need to target. And that's what they did.
So it was like kind of planned.
Yes, it was planned. And then, you know, then I realized, wow, you know, I was the victim of his brother too. He set me up in the same manner.
So do you think there is like there are certain methods used by different people within America to target certain American women and use them to get paper and get citizenship, and later on you go get married in your country, a Muslim woman, or try to convert her? Do you think there is a certain plan like this from
Yes.
your experience in talking to others?
I believe there's a definite plan. More and more women who would come to me because I started a support group, because I didn't have anybody who knew enough about Islam at the time of the first marriage to help me. And so over the years, I saw a pattern, and that was a definite pattern that it's like I call it the 5-year plan.
The 5-year plan.
Yeah, that was my term for it. Because it just seemed like within 5 years, they get what they want, they move on, and almost all of the ones that I knew, the situations with the wife, the husband had already been back to his country to marry, and then was just waiting till he was divorced, and then would do the papers to bring over the Muslim woman.
So what is the 5-year plan? How it starts, how it ends?
It starts with a very quick romance. And of course, looking for women who you know, maybe aren't the most beautiful, but just nice women they know that they can live with. But and then from there, they'll say things like, "Oh, I'll make sure nobody ever hurts you again," and you know, it's a shame your husband didn't treat you well, and I would never do that. You know, trying to build up trust. And you end up trusting them. You believe them at their word. But their words were just, you were being deceived.
Do you think it is related to culture or to religion, or what is the thing behind it? Like, is it something just Moroccans do, or is it a pattern shared by so many nations? I want to hear your opinion about this.
I think it's more than just one culture. It seems the pattern is rampant throughout America, but you don't hear about it. People don't talk about it.
Why?
Well, because women don't want the world to know they've been deceived. So they're not going to tell you. And the men certainly aren't going to tell you, because then immigration or the law might be looking at them a little more closely. So I just think that there's a definite plan put in place. And at one time I had heard, but I can't verify 100%, about the Young Fighters Club. And it was a group who train young men, just like my brother-in-law was doing, on how to court American women and get them to marry them. And if they do, they win a certain amount of money. And who sponsors it, I don't know. But it was amazing that in my own situation, my brother-in-law all of a sudden had $10,000 to start a business not long after we were married.
So how you explain that?
Yeah, I don't know. When I was going to the post office with him one day, and he said he had to mail this check. And so I was holding on to his paperwork, and I looked. It was a check for $10,000. And I said, "Where'd you get this kind of money?" He grabbed it from me and said, "I don't need to tell you anything. Stay out of my business and don't question it." And that's all. It was like, wow, okay.
So from your experience now, any woman will see this. Like, what is your advice to people who go through the same experience? What are you going to tell them?
First of all, take it from somebody who did it twice. Mm-hmm. It's not worth it. You end up losing time. They're just wasting your time. And then you end up being older and you're going, wow, what happened? You know, the best years of my life, they've stolen. And I allowed it by marrying them. Just don't do it. Walk away. It may be hard. You may love them. But I think if you give yourself time and really think about all the different problems you can have, and the fact that they're not in it for the long term, that's not the purpose of the marriage. That you're just going to end up sad and brokenhearted. So,
and the Bible tells us about the darkness and light. Right. They cannot. They don't go together. Didn't right. you take faith into consideration? Like, as a Christian, I don't know how much were you at that time strong in your faith. But didn't you think about Islam as being a different faith, and it contradicts definitely the Christian faith? Did you think about it?
You know, I didn't know enough about Islam until it was too late to really, yes, I know about light and dark and that you shouldn't be unequally yoked, but you know, it just really didn't have enough meaning for me to sit there and go, well, you know, this verse means this to me. It really didn't mean, or I didn't understand the meaning. Maybe that's a better way to put it, what that really meant. Because I looked at Old Testament characters. And I saw marriage to foreigners.
Mm-hmm.
But look at the result
Right.
of some of them. That's the key. If you want the end result to be a long-term marriage and growing old together, you're not going to get it by marrying an unbeliever, and B, somebody who's there just to use you to get what they want.
Being involved in a support group, and I'm sure you have seen so many cases similar somehow to yours. Do you think Islam has, as a religion, has anything to do with this?
Yes.
From what angle?
And again, this is my personal opinion, I feel like they're trying to come through the back door of America and infiltrate our culture through marriage to American women. And then they turn around, dump us, get somebody else from their culture. And so you're left with a bunch of broken-hearted women, children even. Some of them, the women have children. And it's just horrible to see what happens.
Being myself a former Muslim, I can see something, and I want your opinion about it. Let's say I am a Muslim and I see a Christian country and I see I have the right as a Muslim, as a superior religion, that I can take advantage of them any possible way, even using their own girls, their own women, their own money to one day rule their country and have my religion the dominant one.
Right.
Do you see any place of this idea in what happened to you?
I think definitely that can happen in America. Little things that you don't see advertised or reported by the media, honor killings. You hardly ever see that reported by the media. Judges making decisions based on Sharia law when that is not the law of the land here. Why are we even considering Sharia law? So it's already begun, in my opinion, and I feel like the churches need to wake up.
What can the church do to stop this, or at least make an awareness?
Educate themselves about Islam. Really, not only the pastor, but their lay people who are out in the community. They don't understand what's going on. They just know that, oh, you know, all they think about is Iran, you know, and what's happening there. But they don't understand that in the meantime, all this other stuff is going on that they're totally blind to. And it's going to affect them. It's going to affect the church. There were other women, not in the church that I went to, but that I had found later, who were doing the same thing as me, and their church didn't have enough information to really counsel them.
I heard that the most targeted people in the United States by Islam are African Americans and women. Do you confirm this from your experience and from talking to other people?
I had more experience with them targeting women, American women. I'm not sure about the African American. I'm sure that does exist, but I don't have the experience to say yes.
How about cases of abuse? Did you hear about any cases, or at any time in your experience have seen an abuse of women based on the culture, like, and especially religion, that we can beat them, we are superior to them, they have to serve us, they have to cook for us, they have to do everything in the house, and we are the kings, we just work and come and sit.
Right.
So did you experience this? Because this is how we were raised, and part of it is religion. Do you have anything to say about this?
I know that there was a lot of abuse, physical abuse in cases of women that I spoke to, but in my own personal case, it was more I had a back injury, and I told my husband, please, you need to work, because he wasn't working.
So he was not working. Sorry to stop you here.
Yes.
And you were supporting him?
Yes, yes. I was supporting him, and he wasn't working, and every day I would cry because of my back injury and have to force myself to go to work. And
which husband? The first one or
the second one?
The second one.
Mm-hmm. And that's when him and his brother came up with the idea to start the business, start their own business, and the money magically appeared.
So the abuse, we were talking about the abuse. You have not seen from other women that went through the same experiences, abuse?
Oh yeah, they've been abused. One woman who's a very good friend of mine, the abuse was so bad, they consider her case as like the standard to judge other cases because it was so bad. And it was amazing that the courts awarded custody of the child to the father, the one who was doing the abuse. It doesn't make sense.
How about, I heard about polygamy within the Muslim community, but it's not recorded anywhere. So he has on paper one woman, but actually he has 4 or 3 or more than one. So do you confirm this from dealing with cases of American women married to Muslim men?
Yes. What they do is they'll marry the American woman, you know, through the courts, whatever, and then they will go later and get another wife and just marry in the mosque because the mosque does not have to report it.
So this is like confirmed by many cases or just one incident?
No, there were a few. There were a few cases, but also just as a woman myself to see, is that really happening? I signed up for a Muslim dating site, and there were so many cases of men looking for other women, and they put right in their profile, you know, I'm married, but I'm looking for another Muslimah, and we can just get married in the mosque. I was shocked.
On the internet?
On the internet.
Public?
Well, it was a Muslim dating site, so.
So it's a marriage, Islamic marriage, but it's not recorded with the government.
Correct.
And the mosque blesses this marriage, because even if it contradicts the law of the country.
Well, I assume so. I mean, otherwise, why would they marry them, knowing that they're married already?
Well, last thing, do you have anything to say to girls and women who are sometimes attracted to a good-looking Middle Eastern man? They love him, and he looks fine, and he looks moderate. He's not going to force them to convert or anything, at least at the beginning.
Right.
Do you recommend that marriage? Do you say, go for it? What are you going to say?
Of course, my answer is going to be run. Run the other way, because it's just a waste of time. It's like seeing something that, like a beautiful piece of art, and you think it's painted by some famous painter because the name is there. But if you look closely, you really see that it's a forgery. You know, they come and they're dressed nice, they have nice smelling perfume, which of course we all love, and then, you know, they say all the right things to you, but in the end, they don't want what you want. They just want access to America. And you're the vehicle for them to gain that access, and you end up with nothing. So don't do it.
Thank you so much, Robin.
You're welcome.